I love the ribbon workbench, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
So
That's very
I
kind of you.
knew your name before I even met you.
Had I known that, Scott, I would have probably asked you to co-host with me.
I would have probably asked you to co-host with me.
Too late now, I guess. Welcome to Power Platform Connections, where today we're going to be meeting with Business Applications MVP Scott Durow. We're going to check out some blogs and articles from all of you in the community, and we're so excited. My name is David Warner. I'm a Community Program Manager for Microsoft, and with me, my co-host.
Hi, I'm Hugo Bernier. I'm also a community success manager at Microsoft, and I'm super excited today to introduce you to our guest because I've known him or known of him for a very long time. He's the creator of the Ribbon workbench for Dynamics. He's an MVP. He's a fellow Canadian, so we'll have to apologize a lot in this meeting. Scott Durow. Scott, let's see you. There you are.
Hello. How are you doing?
I could tell the accent from right away that was clearly Canadian, right?
Canadian, yeah. I just have to add A on the end of everything, and yeah, it's
you got it, eh?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I'm still perfecting the whole Canadian accent thing.
Well, Scott, thanks for joining us on the call and the show today. Excited to have you. Why don't you take a minute and kind of introduce everyone to who you are?
Yeah. Thanks, David. Yeah. So I'm Scott Durow, and I'm a Microsoft MVP. I have been around in the community for a very long time. As Hugo said, I wrote the Ribbon Workbench. Actually, last year it had a 10th anniversary, so it's been around for a very, very long time. So I'm kind of feeling that. And but I've also been building other tools. So I've been doing sort of open source projects, and I've been doing YouTube videos and all sorts of stuff like that. So, I kind of get around, and I just love the Power Platform. I love the community, and I love just seeing what everyone's doing and just being part of that whole thing.
Awesome.
So if my math is correct, then you wrote the Ribbon workbench when you were 18? Is that...
That's very kind of you to say so.
Oh, thank you.
You've been well traveled for that age, Scott.
Yeah, well, my eldest son is actually studying. He's in his second year of studying biology at university. So it's kind of starting to make me feel a bit longer in the tooth.
When you have to start explaining to them what tapes are and things like that, VCR or VHS, right? Then we start watching something with my son, and he was like, "What is it that?" I'm just like, "Oh, okay." Thanks.
They just roll their eyes, and
yeah,
I've gone through it the whole time. I would hope that they are educated in what a floppy disk is and the entire history of a floppy disk and what a sector is. I hope that they have, taken this on board throughout their whole childhood.
Well, they refer to everything now as back in the 1900s, so that makes us feel nice and young, right? Like, oh, that was back in the 1900s, Dad. That was
when it was black and white, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How did you survive when there was no internet? We went and saw a concert where they locked up our phones, and they were like, "So this is what it was like in the 80s." I'm like, okay.
Well,
all right.
yeah.
No. Yeah. Well, Scott, so one of the things that we love to do is dive into a little bit about who you are as a person, some of your favorite things. We're getting back together in real life events. Everybody wants to have some sort of conversation starter that's great to be able to approach one another with. I always say the technology is what brought us together, but it's our relationships and interests that keep us together. So some of the interesting things that you had mentioned and told us a little bit about pre-show was that you've been to Egypt. So I find that fascinating. Like, of all the places in the world, you listed Egypt. I was kind of curious, what's the story behind that?
Oh, well, it's just fascinating. I mean, seeing the history of Egypt. I mean, it's an amazing place even today, but just that rich history that goes back so far. And you just go to these ancient sites and you see how sophisticated the architecture was, how sophisticated the society was, and the writing and all those kind of things. It's just, it's awe-inspiring to see how they invented so many things back then, and then kind of it was forgotten about for a while and then rediscovered, and now we're only now really just beginning to appreciate where that history lies. So I traveled around with my brother when I think I was about 19. And I'd always had an interest in archaeology and all of those kind of things. So I really wanted to go there. Yeah, so we went out and then did all of the various different ancient sites, and I think I probably got heat stroke on numerous occasions. So not a problem I get in Canada anymore, thankfully.
I'm sure.
But you do work in IT, so just being exposed to the sun for longer than 10 minutes is probably a cause for concern.
That's right.
I'll try to not shine off my head too much here and make too much heat for you, Scott. So it was funny though. You had talked about favorite food, favorite drink, which ironically doesn't always coincide being the exact same thing. In your case, it was. You said sugar was your favorite food, sugar was your favorite drink. Hugo and I started to think that you were a villain from Men in Black for a moment there, going to tell us you need sugar water for the show. But what is the story with that? Got to know.
Well, you know, like those cartoons where the particular cartoon character starts to get hungry and everything that they look at starts to turn into a roast chicken. Well, you're kind of both of you are starting to turn into kind of sweets at the moment, because I'm kind of in withdrawal symptoms. It's one of those New Year's resolutions that we all kind of do and try and stick to, that I'm going to stop having refined sugar and also caffeine as well, which I found is really not a good idea to combine those two things together. So everything I'm doing, I'm craving sugar and caffeine. And unfortunately, my kids just leave just sugar I went up and I looked in the kitchen and it was like there was just sweets all over the top that they just left there. So I'm having to be very self-controlled. I feel like I may fall off of the wagon at some point, but so if anyone can help with me and help support me, I would be really appreciative of that.
I don't know if I can support you about not having caffeine though. Just little, trick. If you ever see me in person and I'm not actually carrying some form of caffeine in my hands, it probably means that I've been abducted and I'm actually like calling for help. That's going to be my sign, my secret sign that please help me. Caffeine all the time.
So I tell you what, Scott, the funny thing, I don't know if you've ever seen an old movie. It was an early Steven Spielberg movie called Young Sherlock Holmes. Not sure if you've ever seen it.
Yes.
There was a scene in it where Watson was hallucinating over like desserts who were talking to him and acting. So if we're ever at an event and I see you talking to your croissant or your pastry, then I'll know that you've gone too far and we need to get you some help. So
yeah, please just to do an intervention and just take me aside.
All right. So one of the other things that's always fun to talk about is, passions around make-believe worlds and game worlds and movie worlds. You had mentioned that a game or movie universe you would most like to live in is a galaxy far, far away. Of course, we all know where that relates to, but where do you see yourself there?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's difficult to relate to being somebody like, a Jedi with those amazing skills, but I think I just love to be part of that whole story and and all of the technology and seeing how just exploring the galaxy. I mean, it's fantastic that they just get in a ship and they just move around from different planets and see the different cultures and the different planets and how crazily outlandish they are compared to each other. I mean, you just have to think of the famous scene in the cantina, with everyone playing the theme tune in the background. I'm not going to sing it, but you know the one, right?
No, I don't know. I think
I know. No, I'm not going to fall into that trap. But one of them's playing looks like they're playing their nose or something. But it's just an intriguing, and that whole kind of you can dream up anything. That make-believe world is really fascinating to me. And actually, I mean, I've got a strange affinity to Star Wars. So I was really big into Star Wars when I was younger, and I remember going to see Empire Strikes Back. I don't think I went to see in the cinema, to go in the movie theater, going to see the first one, but the Empire Strikes Back. I remember vividly going to see it, and my mum actually. She was working with the guy that played Darth Vader. So David Prost.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So he because he's like a bodybuilder, right? He was huge, famously, massively. But so my mum worked in a road safety laboratory kind of place where she was creating all of these campaigns to try and get people to be safe on the road. And back in the day where you didn't have to wear seat belts, I'm kind of dating myself again, which is probably quite scary, but anyway, so she was creating all these campaigns, and so she came up with one of her really good friends this idea of this green cross code man. So they had a green cross code robot, which was this almost like R2D2 kind of style robot, and they needed someone to come and go along with it. And they were like, well, who better to the guy that played Darth Vader? And he was this big guy, and he was teaching kids how to be safe, looking both ways and stop and look and listen and all these kind of things. And so I was like in awe of the fact that my mum was working with this guy. Like I was telling everyone at school, like my mum works with Darth Vader.
Well, I imagine that made it very easy to make friends, right? They're all afraid of you, that you were going to be like, you failed me for the last time.
I strike you down.
That's right. Awesome. Well, I mean, that does have a certain community to it, right? So speaking of the community, as we transition over kind of technology power platform, you've been very active in the community. You mentioned the community being somewhere close to your heart. How did you get started in the community? What's some of the things that keep you there as well?
I was always very much online in the community, from the early days, participating in forums and things like that, because that was really where it was. It really, in the Power Platform world, wasn't the Power Platform back then, but it was very much like if you had a technical problem or if you wanted to learn something, you had to go to a forum or you had to go to the library and read a book. There was a user group, actually. It was a CRM user group, so Microsoft CRM user group that I used to go to it was in Reading, which is the Microsoft headquarters in the UK, just outside of London. And so I was attending that, and one of the organizers, who ended up being a very, very good friend of mine, Adam Vero, he one day said, would you like to speak, and sort of encouraged me and suggested some subjects. And I was like, well, yeah, sure. And he kind of, he said, well, let's do it next time, so he didn't really give me any option to think about it. It was just like, right, in a few months' time, come and speak. So I prepared and had great fun doing it, actually. And it went really well. And then I just went from that and just started to find that I was looking forward to speaking and networking with everyone at those events. And that from that grew this momentum of the community that I see it just sort of, that's what it grew up for me, is to what it is today. It's like kind of this natural progression of more and more events, online events, YouTube, all of those kind of things.
And you were a professional developer before you started doing Dynamics, or is that something you picked up on the way?
Yes, I was. I started in laser research. So, back to Star Wars again, really. And so I was doing sort of industrial control stuff, like, big laser industrial control systems where you had to make sure that it worked, otherwise someone might die, that kind of thing. So it was pretty mission critical and testing and all that kind of element. So it was very much an engineering discipline. And I started to move into more of the business side of things, because there was big factories and it was interacting with the ERP system to making sure that you had an optimized process. And so part of that, then I moved into I think it was called the Microsoft DNA stack back then. So it was classic ASP, SQL Server, sort of n-tiered architecture, and then it became DCOM and COM plus, and so there was like site server back then, before even SharePoint was a thing. Microsoft Commerce Server, Microsoft's content management server, and then Microsoft CRM sort of came out. And to me, that was the real light bulb moment, because I was doing all of this work building solutions, which is, you're doing a lot of code, a lot of stuff that you have to build every single time you do a new solution, and it's very repetitive. Whereas Microsoft CRM was suddenly you're building solutions which was metadata driven. And Microsoft CRM back then was the infancy of model-driven apps, which we have today. It was like you build your schema and then everything is built on top of that. And then you configure your metadata for your views and your forms, and everything else is handled for you. And so that was like, wow, that's amazing. So we don't have to do all this kind of stuff. So it became almost like a low-code principle, another tool in the development stack, really. And then, yeah, moved on from there. So I've had this kind of real privilege to grow up with all of these tools. So obviously SharePoint came out, and well, it was Office Server when it first came out, MOS back then. And so I went and I was a SharePoint consultant for a while. Then I was a BizTalk consultant for a while. And actually I did the first global implementation of BizTalk 2006. And yeah, then sort of CRM moved into Dynamics CRM and Dynamics 365. And yeah, well, the rest is history, as they say.
I think I remember working with CRM 1.2 at first, and I remember that there was more web services than there were actual screens that you could use. So if you knew what you were doing, you could make CRM do pretty much anything you wanted. And to me, that was, and the same thing with SharePoint, right? Where SharePoint, the first version of SharePoint, came with the VB script for the pages, so you could rip it open and you could see how it worked. And with those two tools, the sky was the limit. So you became a Power Platform ninja. No, not ninja. Jedi is the word I was looking for. One of the things I'd love to understand, though, is so you obviously have the skills. You can code, heavy duty code. You can, probably build your own version of every app that you've ever built using the Power Platform. So why would someone like you with the skills use low code when you could just write it from scratch?
Ooh, great question. Why wouldn't I do that? It's, hey, look what I've done. Everyone would just like stare at me, like, that emoji, that starey emoji.
That's right. Shifty eyes.
Yeah, exactly. I just sort of move slowly towards the door. But well, I think that it's really about, well, I don't want to have to write code and maintain that code. There's a really good diagram, a graph that shows, effort, capacity, and as you build features and as you go throughout the life cycle of a product, your maintenance goes up and up and up and up, which means, of course, your capacity for new features goes down and down and down and down. And so really the Power Platform is all about reducing that surface area, reducing the amount of code you have to do. So less maintenance means you can spend more time building more features, but also from a fusion development and a collaboration perspective, you get to work with people that don't necessarily need all of those pro code skills, and which means you've got much more balanced development teams. You're going to get people who are contributing to the overall product, which probably have got a much better understanding of it than you. And so, yeah, really, it's all about getting a better product at the end of the day.
And how many projects would you say in your entire career have you worked on where the requirements were properly defined at the start of the project?
Yes. Yeah, zero.
Yeah,
Zero.
exactly.
This is where a unicorn goes across the screen.
Yeah. Apart from the ones where people die. Those are the only ones where I was doing, embedded systems where that big bit of granite can't go from there to there if somebody is in the machine. Those are the kind of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I thought you were talking about like, getting rid of people so that you could do your requirements faster. So thank you for clarifying.
You did say lasers, right? Next, he's going to start talking about sharks, and we're going to see the conversion there. And
yeah. Well, it's funny, when you have your hand in these machines, sometimes I'd be like, what's that smell? And I realized it was actually the hair burning off the back of my
arm. So one of the things that I'd love to understand, though, is, obviously, again, you have the skills. You started as a pro developer. You learn to use the tools, and you learn to build applications that can adapt quickly to changing business needs or changing requirements. So how does the place of a pro developer fit into the whole Power Platform ecosystem? Like, do you see them disappearing or
Oh,
frozen
not
in
at all.
carbonite?
Yeah, I'm liking this. Oh, this is a really good continuity. Are we going to move into sort of more recent stuff like, the Mandalorian as well? I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think that it's always going to be a balance of skills. It's every different skills, different things need different skills. And there's no way that we're ever going to be in a position where perhaps, in the past, one person can do everything. I think with the much more complex ecosystems we have that are developing, with the whole world being built on and running on software now, that everybody needs to be involved with that. I mean, that's the fundamental truth, that the world runs on software, and in order to manage that, then every part of that needs to be looked after, and that's going to mean that there's going to be elements that are sort of nitty gritty, the network layer, the performance layer, and then all the way up the stack to the actual business side of things, and more of the low code side of. So yeah, it's always going to be, I think, a collaborative job from variety of different skills.
I mean, I can even imagine, you can write PCF controls, build the API infrastructure to support low-code applications if you're a pro developer. So I think, to your point, where you're bringing value is shifting a little bit, because you're empowering people to build the types of applications they need. And again, you're leveraging their knowledge, which is all about the business rules, and I mean, they have the whole domain of expertise that, as a IT professional or as a developer, might take a while for you to learn these rules. So I think it's that, it's that Reese's Pieces, peanut butter and chocolate put together. I think that's a perfect union.
Yeah, absolutely.
We hadn't talked about sugar for like 25 minutes, Hugo. So thanks for. Scott's like, oh, I'm so hungry now.
There goes your heads again. You're both Reese's Pieces.
So Scott, I think the exciting thing is that there's a place for everybody, right? Like what Hugo is saying, is it's not like there's this huge learning curve. There's an opportunity for everybody, but there is still a learning curve. So you think about areas as well to learn more. So you're a speaker. You're actually going to be coming to the Power Platform Conference in October, I believe. You got announced a couple weeks ago, so congratulations for that.
Thank you.
What are you excited about for that?
Well, these events are amazing because everyone comes together, and you get this buzz, this huge. Some of the parts is great in the whole kind of situation, and people are exchanging ideas. And I think all of the best things that have ever happened in my career have started from an event like that. And honestly, I think that I can't think of anything that hasn't started its infancy from an idea or a conversation or a piece of networking, or even hey, let's just sit down together in the corridor and like just work on something and see how it works and exchange ideas. And so I think that's what I get out of events like this. Obviously, listening to other people is part of that, right? So sitting in sessions and listening to what people have got to say sparks those ideas, and then you can kind of get to carry it on, later on over a drink or whatever.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, because I think that with COVID, we lost a lot of that, right? We had a lot of virtual opportunities to share knowledge. I think Hugo and I spoke more in that couple of years than we had in multiple years combined. Although when the session was over, it was just over, right? There was no hallway conversations. There was no opportunity to collaborate. So it's exciting for folks that are going to get back together now. We're seeing a lot more events crop back up. That also means that there's a lot of new ones that are inspired to start speaking, to start getting engaged in the community. You've done both. You're well established, but it can still be intimidating to them. So what's some advice that you would have for those that are watching and thinking, I want to do more, I want to get more involved, but is there a place for me?
What would my advice be? I mean, I think my advice, first and foremost, would be just go for it. Believe in yourself. Don't hold back. I mean, that's always going to be the reason why you won't do something. It's like, oh, no one wants to hear what I've got to say, or everyone has got something that is a unique position, because it's not the same as everyone in the audience. So you have got something to share. You have got something that people want to hear because you have a unique experience which is not the same as the people you're speaking to. And I think that's the thing to hold on to. But from a practical perspective, ask for help. Maybe find someone who would like to speak with you, who maybe is more experienced, or maybe even just done it once before. Safety in numbers, maybe if you get nerves, and just submit your sessions, right? Just submit, and if you don't get picked, submit to another event, and just keep doing it until you get to it. But yeah, believe in yourself, and know that whatever your experience you have is valuable to share with other people.
Yeah, I love that. I think it, and what Hugo's going to say in a moment, but just to add on, the reaching out to other people, we live in a connected world now. It doesn't matter if they're on the same city, the same county, country, continent, or not. You have an opportunity to collaborate with them. So don't be afraid to ask anyone in the community. They're always willing to. Hugo, go ahead.
I just wanted to tell you, Scott, David and I, when we joined the community success team, we were pretty much told, hey, you're in charge of the Power Platform Conference. David worked really, really hard on the Power Platform Conference. And sometimes we forget that it's people that are arranging these things. It's not just some faceless corporation like Microsoft. It's actually people like David and I that were working on it and working very hard. And we were pretty excited about the conference after last year's Power Platform Conference. Pretty happy with ourselves. People seemed happy, but the one thing for me that really told me that we had done well with the conference, it was videos that you had put together after the conference and during the conference, just to talk about your perspective on the conference. It was a great video, well, mostly because you said good things about us, but it
You got
it
the
really,
PayPal for that, right?
yeah, that's right, that's right.
Just making a note of this, yeah. So
But
always say
it
good
was
things
great.
about.
And it really helped feed into this next year's or this year's Power Platform Conference. A lot of the things that you talked about, the things that you enjoy, that sense of community, were all things that we wanted to bring back. So thank you for for creating those videos, and for saying good things about us. I'm sure that there's outtakes out there. I don't ever want to see them.
Yeah, there was a lot of outtakes, but I had a great fun. And thank you. It's nice to know that you watched them. And yeah, I mean, you see these sort of travel vlogs of people going to amazing places, and going to these just places that you just never can dream of going yourself. But I wanted to sort of do the same thing for just stuff that I'm passionate about, because that's what, for me, that's what's exciting, is going to events like this.
Yeah, likewise here.
Yep. Well, Scott, thank you for taking the time out today to spend with us on this episode. Really appreciate it. Excited to do more with you in the community and collaborate with you at the conference coming up. Really appreciate you taking the time out with us today.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thanks ever so much for having me. It's great talking to you.
All right, everybody, thank you all for tagging your social post with Power Platform Connects. It's all you got to do, and we'll take a look at everything that you've been posting, blogs and all that. So now let's join Hugo as we're going to take a look at some of the amazing content that you've written over the last week.
Thank you, David. So we have a few articles to talk about. Natalie Linders, who's been very active in the community recently, she's written a couple blog posts that I wanted to highlight. One of them is basically talking about if you're looking for, you have a Boolean column in SQL, or you're connecting to a virtual table and you need to have a toggle or checkbox in your app. She shows you in a quick article how to convert the column in SQL to a bit so that it's easy to show it as a checkbox. And then there's another quick article that Natalie has written when you have SQL data backend and you're using a virtual table to map to your SQL database, to Dataverse. If you've got a drop-down box or an option set in your form and you want to bind to that SQL column, there's no real SQL in SQL Server. There's no real choice columns. So one of the things that Natalie shows is how to work around that. And Natalie has been really active in the community, like I said, and I love that she's writing quick blogs.
Yeah, these are really, really valuable. And a lot of times we'll ask ourselves, well, who doesn't know this? There's always likely someone that's new in the community. So even if it's just a little tip or trick or a fundamental that you learned that is valuable to you, share it. This is a good way to help remind yourself in the future. You'd be surprised. You may Google it or Bing it and find, oh my goodness, I already blogged on this and I needed to know it later. So always share. Great to see Natalie getting more involved in the community. In fact, we see that picture of her right there was from the Power Platform Conference last year. So
Oh, that's right.
hopefully we'll see her at the next one. Yep.
We'll have to have her over in one of these episodes. We have another blog post from Lindsay Shelton, and she's written about how to write approvals using SharePoint groups. And so one of the great things about Lindsay's approach is she does talk about using a trigger for a selected file trigger in Power Automate. And she talks about some of the drawbacks of the trigger and how to work around. But one of the great things that she does with this is that she's able to actually using a multi-select list to allow multiple groups to vote, which is something that people ask us all the time. And she also uses a million variables, and I like using a million variables.
Yeah, I do too, actually. Although I try to use 1,000,001 just to, make it nice and round. But yeah, I mean, I remember, Hugo, when you were setting up some of the flows, the variables are a great way to make sure that when you're sending out those, for example, automation of emails that you send to us in the team, it assigns those tasks and ensures that it's not tied to a single person, obviously, because we want to make this reusable, easy to maintain. Not using things like hard-coded names. As the team changes, then you got to go back and change everything. Variables make that easy to not have to do that.
Well, I mean, I hard code my name in a lot of workflows just to make sure I still have a job in the future, but that's a different story. All right. So we also have Alice Karim, who's written an article about how to find the internal name of a SharePoint column. So Alice is a super user. If you don't know what a super user is, it's someone who goes above and beyond the call of duty in the power users at Microsoft.com forums. And he's been helping people with all sorts of answers to their problems. But in this one, this is his blog post where he's writing about SharePoint columns. And SharePoint columns internally have two names, right? They have a display name, which is the one that you see, and there's an internal name. And sometimes if you put a space, for example, in your column name, you'll actually have weird characters in your column name. And if you don't know about that, that can throw you off, especially if you're trying to write filters. So he does talk about kind of the difference between internal names and why internal names are important. And then he shows a few practical ways to actually find the column name in SharePoint. One of the things that he talks about is also that column names in filters are case sensitive. So you want to pay attention to that. And then he showed a trick that I don't think I knew about SharePoint. And I've been using SharePoint for a long time. You can actually create some clean column names by using the add column option to create a column name instead of going through the kind of the advanced screen. Did you know that, David?
I did actually. It's a newer feature. Didn't always do that, but SharePoint wants to make sure that it's family appropriate. So no dirty column names, only clean column names. So
Is that why? Okay, that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, exactly.
All right, and we have another blog post by Louis Baybutt, Low Code Louis. We all know him as Low Code Louis. So using object detection in AI Builder against images in Dataverse. And it's a great article that shows the kind of the complexity of creating or storing images in notes, and then to be able to retrieve these images and to be able to make sense of those images. So in his scenario, he's got a Power Pages site. I love Power Pages. He's got a Power Pages site with a basic form on it, and you can upload attachments, and then he parses the attached photos using AI to extract the information. And
Yeah,
again,
I think
in his, yep, go ahead.
I was going to say I think we'll have to have him on a future show to tell us more about this, right? And by the way, Louis, congratulations on the new MVP. By the way.
That's right. We're so lucky to work with these people. All right. So again, we'll have him talk about this solution in the future. But I strongly recommend you go take a look at this article. And one of the things that I wanted to point out is if you're using if you've never really considered using AI, I once had a customer who wanted to do vaccine attestations for COVID, and they had many hundreds of thousands of employees, and they wanted the employees to be able to upload their vaccine attestation, and we use Power Pages to do that. But one of the things that we talked to them about is we said, well, how are you going to verify that people are really uploading their vaccine attestation? And they said, well, we're just going to randomly go verify some images. And of course, I'm the world's laziest developer, so it sounded like a lot of work to me. And I said, well, why wouldn't you use AI and just have it identify the outliers? So instead of randomly looking for images that don't fit the mold, to be able to actually identify exactly the images that don't fit. So those are great examples of kind of reducing the manual labor, reducing the overhead by using AI to do the dirty work for you. We have a video by Daniel Christian where he actually shows how to integrate Power Automate Desktop with Outlook and AI Builder. So we're talking about AI. I have a feeling AI is going to be a big topic in upcoming sessions as well. But this is a great video where he walks through the details. I recommend you go take a look at this video.
Did you just say it's going to be big because you don't want the robots to kill you when they take over?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
wanted our future robot overlords to
Like
treat
you,
me
have
nicely.
mercy on you. Yeah.
That's right. Victor Dantas has actually shared something with community mentorship, and so I love this initiative. Zero to Hero is kind of a community is a free initiative that really helps you to assist and coach and encourage beginners and really professionals to achieve the highest levels of proficiency, right, in the various Microsoft Power Platform products and related technologies.
And this is so near and dear to both of our hearts, right? Because very similar to Sharing is Caring, program you and I both started together with Vesa Juvonen, that is about doing this exact same thing, empowering others to learn how to do more together, not just giving them a video or a blog, which are all helpful, but it gives everyone a safe space opportunity to ask questions, collaborate, find other like-minded folks in the community all around the world. So well done on this one. Really love this.
Yeah, and I love that they are featuring a lot of the really giants in the community. Chris Huntingford, Geetha, Leo Russo, Christine Kozieski, Daniel Christian, and Gulshan and Pranav Khurana. So kudos for these initiatives, and I know that by the time this airs, some of these sessions will already have gone by, but the next one I think would be by Leo Russo on February 28th. All right, and we got two more blog posts to talk about. One, which is very exciting, is the ability to call Dataverse actions directly in PowerFX. And this is something that was written by Lance Delano, who's a principal program manager at Microsoft. And the PowerFX language now allows you to actually directly invoke a Dataverse action within a formula. And this is huge.
Yeah, this is really huge, right? I mean, this is big because without it, you'd have to use Power Automate to call Dataverse, which has that transactional going back and forth. But now you're able to do it directly from Power FX. So pretty exciting.
And yeah, we should see a huge, performance benefit, as well as making it easy. Remember, I'm the world's laziest developer, and it should be used even for things like direct transactional reads and updates. So this is a great feature. Very excited to see this. And the other exciting update is we've got a whole bunch of new connectors. And it feels like we could probably have a call just dedicated to updating you on connectors. So we're just going to give you a quick overview, but there's 11 new verified connectors. And so verified connectors are connectors that were usually created by the organization that owns the APIs. And so that's bulk SMS, business assist, cognitive services, speech to text, EBMS, eMigo, Expert Logic, Smart Flows, iManage Work for Admins, Link.bio, Drive Sign, Teams Forms, Team Spirit. Those are great. And then there's 18 updated connectors, and we won't list them here, but we recommend you go take a look at this article to stay up to date. And that's it for me for now. Now, if you want your blog post to be features, what do people have to do?
All you need to do is use the hashtag Power Platform Connects. Put that into your Twitter or your LinkedIn post. We will take a look and find all of it, and we will try to highlight you. try to highlight you.
And try to speak at the same time.
That's right. Yeah.
No, so if I know anything about our video editor, he's like, we were gonna ask him to put the tags here, but he's probably gonna put it like the opposite of where I'm pointing. So just to be safe, I'm pointing everywhere.
I mean, you two just can't seem to get along, so we'll see what happens.
All right, well, that's it for us.
This week, check out, and he just got an alert that reminded him about it.
Blue.
You're on every show, right?